Hello there. Welcome back to our Haas Hard Challenge. Today we're going to continue where we left off. We're currently about to enter Netherlands. We do have the summer break ahead of us, so we do have a little bit of development going there. But in particular, it's going to be really, really good because of the fact that we are lacking severely in a bunch of car parts. So these 25 days needs to be used efficiently. And unfortunately, we're not going to get the factory level 3 up until we end... until last week before the GP, so that's going to suck a little bit, but it's just what we're going to have to deal with. If you have enjoyed the series so far, please go ahead and like and subscribe, helps me out a ton. And with that, let's just get back to it. So we just finished our last race in Belgium. It didn't go super well. As you can see, we have some destroyed parts here, chassis, front wing and suspension, as well as some failed parts. So honestly, I don't know if we actually have enough parts to replace everything that is lacking at the current point. So let's just see how far we get. And as you can see, we already failed on the rear wing. The underfloor we can replace for car 2 here. We are insufficient there as well. So yeah, it's not looking good. Let's go ahead and get an underfloor manufactured ASAP. We're also going to get a rear wing manufactured ASAP, probably in 4 days. But as you can imagine here, we're gonna have to get the car back in order. We're also getting some research done. And honestly, with the current situation of the teams here, we are fighting Merc. We might be able to fight Aston here for third. I still think that the best play for us here with the hard difficulty is to try and do research and see how the car plays with our standard strategy, which is of course developed for the first 2-3 months, 4 months basically. And after that, once research unlocks, we go research only. So I do want to see this strategy fully out. So we're going to be sticking with research for now. I think that is the play here, honestly. So car development wise, we're still pretty good at cornering. We're lacking at high speed, but as I said, we're just gonna live with the car as it is for now. Nothing much there we're gonna be doing. Development wise here, we actually have a decent month where both drivers get a couple of points, cornering and of course adaptability, the cursor stat here for Hulkenberg. For Magnussen we get braking and accuracy, so this is actually pretty good. He actually got 2 points of braking. Can't really complain about those results at all. Now the training schedule here I'm going to be setting up personally because again, what we're going to be focusing on for the most part is going to be getting that error chance down, because the 15% error chance is way harsher for us than say get 7/10 off the pit stop time, I think. So we're going to be focusing the error chance, but we're going to allow the pit crew here to, well, rest up a little bit before we start doing pit stop drills, because as if they're exhausted, it's just going to go worse, and we'll be kind of handling it here. If they enter tired, we'll give them a rest day, and that does seem to work out pretty well for if you just want to do something as simple as this. So that's also the secondary reason why we're focusing on the pit stop errors rather than anything else. And that is that it's fairly easy to practice. You don't get as much exhaustion as you would do when you do other forms of practice in this case. So we are going to do this. I probably would have liked to be a bit more balanced. But for now, honestly, we're just going to go ahead and put in the drill chance here. And we can actually do it on Tuesday here too. And that should give us a minor demerit before the weekend. Put in a couple days work here too. And that should be fine. Basically, once we take over, I do believe, I can't actually remember if this is a double header, triple header or not. So we'll just leave the schedule like this. And as you can see, this isn't really representative of what we gain or lose. We just get +6 across the board. And we do lose a little bit of pit stop time, do lose a little bit of car building, but it does bring the chance lower, and that is basically the main point of what we're doing. So we'll be focusing on that this year for sure. Now, with that said, we're gonna have to wait for manufacturing, but apparently a lot of things are happening. Excuse me, I'm having hiccups. Of course, the perfect timing. And apparently Hulkenberg and his race engineer Gannon has gotten some tension going, so we're going to go ahead and intervene. Seems to work pretty well for me, so we'll do that, and hopefully we can get that sorted before the Dutch GP. That would be my hope anyways. So there we go, we now have that new side pod. What we want to manufacture next is going to be that rear wing. And honestly, we might as well just go ahead and manufacture a couple of them. And we might do the same for the front wing, we'll have to see. But yeah. It's a bit rough to say what we should be doing at this stage, honestly. Rear wing research has been completed. Get a little bit more DRS and drag reduction, which is what we want. Really, really good. And I'm just going to double check the board here, but the front wing is what we're losing on. Rear wing, probably should focus a little bit on low speed, medium speed, and high speed cornering ability. But yeah, all we're losing here is cornering ability mainly on the low speed, so we do need to put in some work there. And as I said, we probably do want to focus a little bit on that for the rear wing as well, because of the fact that we haven't really done that so far in any series really. But getting these boosts like 2-3 times over the course of the next year would be nice. It still gets us a decent DRS effectiveness, decent top speed, and even a little bit dirty air tolerance. So it's not a bad idea to just put in a little bit of effort. Let's just double check here that I've actually used my CFD allocation this time around. Sometimes I tend to forget, so if you're loading up save again, just check that on the first project you have available so that your plans do not go to waste. Underfloor has been manufactured. I believe that means that we can actually swap out all the car parts. And then we can now have a look and see where we're actually at for the passes. So the chassis is up to 3. Should be up to 4 since we're running a project. We have 5 front wings, no stress there. We'll be up to 3 rear wings, side pod. Probably going to need underfloor and suspension. Yeah, that is going to be it. Let's get an underfloor manufactured, and then hopefully we can also get a suspension before standboard. And even then, as you can see here, we're still behind on parts, or we're most likely going to be. But yeah, chassis, rear wing, and if we can then get the suspension project going too, I think we'll be fine, as long as we don't, you know, bin it immediately. But now I'll probably maximize the jinx for that next race. Let's just go ahead and get 2 suspensions made. We're going to need them. And as you can see there, we can only get 1 done in time. And we also incidentally finished the suspension research. Was this with or without CFD? Looks like it was without CFD, so that is good. And honestly, we're just going to go ahead and do 1 more research. And I believe that should be enough, actually. That we do actually, you know, catch up on the research here, so that we don't lose anything next year and get a little bit of gain. So I'm happy with doing this, boosting brake cooling. Should probably go ahead and boost drag reduction too, for that matter. But honestly, we'll balance that on the next research crunch, if you will. Chassis has been manufactured. I believe that actually brings us up to 4 of them. It does. So I'm kind of tempted here with just 11 days. Let's go ahead and make a side pod. That way it brings it up to 4. We're covered. Because I believe we're currently making a underfloor and suspension. So yeah. Side pod for the win there. And we're actually going to be getting our next slot here now pretty soon as well. I think what we're actually going to do is make another underfloor. Get that 2 up to 4. And with that next slot we're getting, we're actually in a good spot now. Because this means that we can go ahead and make front wings, rear wings. Let's get a rear wing made. And then a front wing. And then we're basically completely covered to some degree. We're still going to be lacking a suspension. But at least now we will be somewhat covered in terms of parts. And well, development speed doubles. Well, not really doubles, it goes from 6 to 12%. We doubled the boost, but the project capacity is massive here. And that is kind of why I would recommend everyone to get a level 3 factory. It is more than worth it. Now, I would assume that this is where we put our CFD time, and judging by the airflow front, might not be. I'm a little bit unsure what I used my last CFD period on, but that's just me having bad memory more so than anything else. But if we have a look at this, I definitely have used one in the suspension. I don't think I've used one on the underfloor. If I have, it didn't have much of an effect. Probably not on rear wing, probably not on the front wing here. Maybe. Maybe we used one on the front wing now I think about it. Doesn't look like it. But we'll go ahead and do additional front wing research because, well, it is the front wing. It is important. And I would like to get the airflow front up too. And honestly, we don't gain a lot of high-speed cornering. and we lose very little of it here. So we're going to do this for this one, and that should be a-okay. It'll be done in October, so we'll still have a couple of days, a couple of months there to keep on doing more research. All right, I think we're ready now for the Dutch Grand Prix finally. Had a lot going on here during this summer break. And we're also going to go ahead and make that final front wing. That should keep us fully covered. And let's just double check. Looks like we are fine now. The underflow is being manufactured. The suspensions are being manufactured. So there's nothing we really can do right now. We could, of course, start making extra parts. Which honestly probably would be a really good idea. So we're not going to do that. We'll see how long we can survive on the parts that we have. We are probably going to get, as I said, a little bit pressed for parts later on. But we're just going to have to live with the live with that situation should it arise, I think. With that said, let us set up the goal here. Finish position streak. 1 driver top 10, 5 races. It's very conservative, I know. But it's basically the only thing that I can guarantee here. A drive in the top 10. I know that we have scored podiums and potentially had chance for wins. But usually we have one driver crashing out and the other driver usually also getting into some issues. So let's not guarantee anything more than we can guarantee over the next 5 races. If we do, we're probably going to end up in trouble. So a little bit of passiveness is perfectly fine. Let's see here, cost cap wise, we are expected to have 46 million remaining, so we're still going to have plenty of money, which means that buying new parts should be doable if we need to. We currently spend 9.1 million on emergency purchases, so it's a bit rough, but I think we can deal with it. Let's go to Dutch Grand Prix and see how we're holding up. We had a red flag moment in quali here. It's Q2, and we've already set a time, but this could potentially be a little bit problematic for us because the first time we set isn't that good, and we'll be losing a little bit of quality time. We were about to do the second run, so the tires have suffered a little bit of use as a result, but even then I think we'll be probably able to get safely through this. It's just a bit of a pain that we have a red flag stoppage. And as I said, both cars were about to start their flying laps. Out behind Alonso isn't bad, but it's not great either. And as you can see, most cars now are going to do a rather quick lap. So for Hulkenberg's sake, what I'm thinking that we're going to do here is that we're going to forcefully take control. And we're just going to go full-on aggressive here. And this might actually mess Magnussen up a little bit, but it looks like we're okay. And are we going to get the tires up to temper into the first corner? Not really. So we're suffering with temperatures as well. But at least we are setting personal best sectors. So that is the one positive thing to drag from this. Let's see if we can actually get a good time.
So for reference,
and there we go. So we did set a better time than Magnussen.
Lap time looks pretty competitive at the moment.
And with these times, I think we should be through. Magnussen is living kind of dangerously here. But considering that Tsunoda is already out, it's just a shame it was Tsunoda since he most likely would have been out anyways. I think Magnussen is somewhat safe, but we'll send him out once again just to be on the safe side. And this is generally just how I run quali. The red flag, of course, does make it a little bit more complicated. But generally, unless I get stuck very close behind another car, I'll just let them run normally. I only take manual control in this event that, as I said, get stuck behind a different car. And Magnussen here, yellow in sector 1, green sector 2. No improvement. So that is a little bit worrisome. But I think we are safely through to Q3 here for both cars, so shouldn't be any concern. Let's see how we do in Q3, and if we get a good starting position for the race. So pretty decent quality here, 5th and 6th. I think we can be happy with that. Sainz had a bit of a bad one. As you can see, he did way better in the previous 2 qualies and probably would have had us beaten pretty handily if he could replicate that. But at least Alonso is going to get moved backwards. Sainz is going to get moves backwards too. So we're actually in for a very interesting race weekend here. We're starting pretty high up for 1. And for 2, it's going to be heavy rain for the race itself. And it looks like it's going to be very, very light, that heavy rain. Yeah, this is just going to be Inters at around lap 40. So this is going to throw a wrench into the plans for sure. But I'm curious of what is going to be our best strategy here. In terms of tires we have available, medium and hard for both of them. We do want to save a soft tire for sure until the end here. So I think medium to hard is going to be the play. If they can survive long enough. And looking at this, it's going to be really, really close if they're actually going to be able to. We have about a 5-lap, gap that we can play with doing this. But this is playing it a little bit risky, but any safety car, virtual safety car, is going to make this viable. So we're going to take this gamble of going medium and then hard. And I think it's going to be worth it. If it, fails, so be it. But it's probably the best strategy that we have available to us. So we're going to go ahead and try and take advantage of, as I said, what I think is the best strategy available to us at the moment. So with that said, let's just jump into the race. Nothing too special here. We're starting 4th and 5th. And we'll be, of course, aiming for another podium.
Some fighting between the sand dunes. Here we go. It's the Dutch Grand Prix.
So this is interesting. We see a lot of hard runners here from the get-go. That is going to make things even more interesting. And at least we have a decent start here. Ocon, though, getting a run on Hulkenberg is not what we like to see. But hopefully Hulkenberg can hold him off. Ocon is on hard tires, so should be doable. Maybe not, we'll see. Ocon definitely quick here on those hard tires. And as you can see here, there's actually 4 hard runners in the top 10. Almost everyone else has chosen the soft tires with the exception of us and Albon. So this is probably going to be a fairly interesting race just from seeing that, in all honesty. Of course, once we Ocon is going to start falling backwards, and Hulkenberg gets the move done. Kind of want to see a replay, but even if he hadn't, we'd probably gotten him under DRS, I would think.
There's the opening.
That's a pretty brave and aggressive overtake, honestly, so we'll live with that. But yeah, Hulkenberg should be able to create a gap to Ocon, I think. I would think, at least, before the DRS opens on next lap. And Magnussen here is actually running all the way up into the back of Verstappen, and that is something that we do like to see. But again, these guys are on medium and, well, hard tires with the exception of Leclerc, so we kind of do need to get by them. The longer we stay behind, the more we're going to end up suffering. But if the Red Bulls are going to DRS off each other, nothing much we can do about that. We'll just have to try and deal the best we can. And for now, we're basically just going to sit back and relax and try and do our best here into that first pit window. Temperature-wise, we have 135 degrees to go on, so we still have plenty of tire temp here left to play with, so I'm not concerned at the moment. We'll allow things to play out. We'll probably try and again create a gap with Hulkenberg and Ocon, but other than that, we'll just take it a little bit slow here for this first stint. So I have a little bit of a concern here right now. Currently we're running 3rd and 5th. Magnussen's gotten Perez, Hulkenberg's gotten a gap to Ocon. But the thing that concerns me is actually the tire usage of the AI. As you can see, Sargent here is using a lot of his tire. He's actually done a pretty instrumental job. He was running 7th for a while in holding up a lot of the cars behind us, but now they've kind of been released. And you can actually see that in the terms of, well, how bunched up they are. But what I'm saying that I'm concerned about in terms of the tire usage is that the huge amount of sub runners means that a lot of these cars are most likely going to pit a lap or 2 before us. Excuse me. And that's probably going to result in us getting potentially overtaken once we pit. We have gaps to play with, so honestly it's not a bad thing that there's many sub runners. But if they pit as early as this, well, we still have 5 more laps to run, we could potentially see some of them jump us. But of course, if we have some back markers here holding up the rest of the pack, that would be great. But currently it doesn't seem like we're going to even have that, so we might need to jump onto the hard set earlier than anticipated, just to kind of counter that. But nothing much we can do about it at this stage. We've ran the fuel down to 2.4 kilograms here because, of course, we are going to get rain. So that is why we have decided to do that. And we can see Leclerc here opting to pit, Magnus up into second, Hülkenberg up into fourth. And he should be quick. And he's actually opted for going for a soft tire. And that is very interesting because rain is still estimated around lap 40. He's going to struggle to get that soft tire there. He's going to have to run it very conservatively to do so. And that is going to make it very, very interesting towards the end of this this GP. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what the plan is there. For Sainz, though, he's up into 14th, and he's basically the main concern that we have right now. Leclerc is, of course, also a concern, but he's probably not someone we're going to be fighting. Sainz is probably more likely to be, well, to be that driver. So if we have a quick look here at the pre-practice, the time lost here in the pits is around 19 seconds. And currently, Sainz is behind Hülkenberg. He is 26, so we still have a little bit of leeway still. So I think we'll be fine running these tires into the ground. But I think what we're going to be doing now is actually pitting one of our drivers. So I'm thinking we're going to be pitting Hülkenberg first, because he carries the most risk. And we'll be pitting Magnussen on this lap here. And that should be fine. Even if we don't run the tires completely into the ground, it should be a-okay. Verstappen even has a pit stop issue there that slows him down a little bit. And Hülkenberg here actually comes out in a really, really good window because a lot of cars pit. There's a lot of, well, fresh air. Gas is on old hard. Verstappen should be fine on those softs till the rain starts. And Perez and Ocon might actually make it, you know, all the way till the rain starts, but they are going to be fairly slow due to, well, having used the tires up as much as they have. Ocon has also elected for a soft tire, so they're going to have to, as I said, run them pretty conservative compared to us who can just go full attack on these hard tires. Unless, of course, the rain is going to arrive, say, lap 35 and we're really off, which could be the case. We only have 60% on the forecast. But it is a gamble we have elected to take, and it's a gamble we're going to have to live by. And as you can see, in Magnus' case, he's already caught up to Perez, who's on... actually, he's pitted for new softs. Okay. I was surprised that we actually caught up to him that early. But that is also an interesting choice, that he's elected to go for a soft tire. I assume we'll see Gasly pitting fairly soon then too? Did I remember wrong here in terms of the compound performance? 4/10 there for the softs, so basically 12-13 laps. Compared to the hards, it's actually going to be close to 20 laps. Yeah, I have miscalculated for sure. But we'll still have to stick with this. We'll just have to push these tires to the limit, even though we do have Sainz coming up behind. But as said, we'll have to see just how long these softs can actually, you know, stay competitive if they're going to be running aggressive. And that's going to be the big one for this race. So for now, we'll keep on attacking. And we'll see what we look like once we get closer to the rain itself. We're getting very close now to the wet weather. It's arriving within the next couple of minutes. And as you can see, we weren't that far off with the lap 40 estimation. But it should be going up here pretty quickly, which means that pitting early is going to be probably very worth it. As you can see, they did use basically everything they had on these soft tires, but they still were quicker than us, so we did elect the wrong strategy here. There is just no way around that. Now, I don't know if the... Yeah, I don't think the rain here is going to go up quick enough. 22 seconds. 20 seconds pit, it's going to be 40 millimeters. If you take the real life sandwich, it would definitely be worth it to pit early. So I'm thinking we actually just get Hülkenberg in here right now. Bit of a gamble, for sure. But judging by how quickly the water is going up, it should be potentially worth it to get him in here. We'll see that when he comes out, should be around 50. And then it's just going to keep on going up over the course of this lap. So should be okay. We do want to get the interstop set up for Magnussen as well. And as long as we don't completely, you know, burn these tires to the ground, this stop should be fairly routine, fairly good for us. But yeah, as you can see, temp is extremely quickly increasing here. Magnussen, though, is coming out in 4th, so nothing too bad about that. Hulkenberg does get a couple of jumps done, but still behind Ocon, so not the best pit stops we ever had. But right now, I'd say we are in a very, very good position, as overtaking in these conditions is going to be fairly difficult. Hulkenberg, though, we're going to have to tune down to aggressive, even though the rain here isn't going to be here for a long time, just 25 or so laps. If you overheat the inters, they're just going to completely fall apart, and that's going to backfire horribly for us. As you can see, we have Sainz behind us, and that's not a good thing. So we'll try and regain fuel now under the inter period, and we'll try and see if we can get Ocon for Hulkenberg, and see if we can get closer to Leclerc. I guess it's going to be the hope here for Magnussen. And we are going to, of course, have to manage the tie attempt somewhat. But again, running close to the maximum temperature is not a bad thing in this game. It's actually really beneficial to you in most cases. So let's see if we can get something done before we go back to dry tires, and hopefully get a decent result here. So we're currently in a bit of trouble here because mainly I pushed the tires a little bit too hard, but also because we were running aggressive behind Sainz. As you can see, Hulkenberg is falling backwards now. There's nothing we can do with that, with the tires being kind of going off here. But we do need to survive another 5 laps, and that's going to be really difficult on these tires, honestly. So we're going to go ahead and push fuel for both cars here at this stage. And honestly, for Hulkenberg, it's just going to be to do his best here to hold on. That's going to be the thing. Magnussen is in a great position. He probably will not be able to fight for a podium, but he's 15 seconds ahead of Ocon currently, although Ocon is gaining about a second a lap. Should still be able to secure 4th place. And that is kind of going to be what we're hoping for. With Hulkenberg, again, I estimate we're going to just do 65 laps, so he's going to probably be falling backwards, but as long as he's holding the Astons behind him, he's going to be pretty much A-okay, although we probably are going to want to pit him a little bit earlier than, well, you'd probably recommend. So for now, we're going to wait for the water here to recede. Probably going to have to do 1 or 2 more laps, basically. And then we're going to have to just gamble on getting him onto the soft tire early, because he's going to just keep on losing time. And as long as he at least keeps the Astons behind him, he can be somewhat happy. But this is definitely not great news, and the tires are definitely dying at this stage. So we are going to do 1 more lap here with Hulkenberg, and then we're going to be pitting him. So we want him to push everything that he can on this lap, and then we'll have him come in on the next one. And as long as he can, you know, slow down the Astons, that's fine. It's a shame that we couldn't get Ocon and Sainz. We'll have to see if we might be able to get them on the soft tire, but right now, there's just no chance of that happening. And water is going down slower at this stage, and we still have a little bit of tire life left. So we're actually going to extend it by 1 more lap before we pit him. And for Magnussen, we could gamble here on actually taking Magnussen in slightly early, and I think that's going to be the key here. So I should probably have had him running attack a little bit earlier as well. But as you can see here, Sainz is gambling, and that is going to be the key here for us too. We probably should have gambled, put in Hulkenberg. But we'll see what the Astons do. If they double stack, great for us. If they don't, not so great. But they actually just had Alonso, and he is going to overtake us in the pits as a result. Particularly with Hulkenberg having a 9.1 second stop there. So, yeah, that was not great. Magnussen down in 5th, but Ocon ahead, just ahead there, is going to need to pit. So, again, nothing we really need to be concerned about. For Hulkenberg, it's going to be to do his best here now to chase down the rest of the pack. But even that is going to be probably very, very fruitless. Because of the long pit stop, even Stroll got out ahead of us. So, it is what it is. We'll just have to live with it, unfortunately. But at least we are ahead of the Mercedes, which is our main rivals at the moment. Ocon, though, is going to score some good points for Alpine, but all in all, if we secure 4th with Magnussen, this is probably a decent result. Although, I have allowed the fuel to go a little bit low, so let's do a little bit of conservation here. Get that back onto the positive, and just don't take any risks here. Although, it is quite tempting with Hulkenberg to go ahead and take a little bit of risk. I'll allow him to deploy so he can at least get up behind Stroll. And then maybe we'll have a bit of a chance there to do an overtake on potentially the last lap or the second to last lap. Because we are pretty far behind the leader. That's Verstappen. We still have 2 more laps, so that kind of tells you everything you need to know about that. And since Verstappen has started his final lap now, we're just going to deploy till the end. And try and get Stroll right now on the main straight. That's going to be the play. And looks like we did pull that off. Now we need to hold the position, which is going to be a little bit, more difficult. But if we can do that, at least we score a few more points for our team, which is going to be great. And we'll have to see if we might be able to snatch fastest lap back from Alonso. We might just barely be able to. Let's see here. Nah. But 4th place, 8th place, that is a good result, particularly considering that we didn't destroy any part of the car. I'll take that after the summer break for sure. So the Red Bulls 1-2, kind of what we're getting used to. Leclerc 3rd, Sainz makes it up to 5th, Ocon 6th, then we have Alonso and Stroll with Hulkenberg in 8th, and Hamilton scoring a point for Merck. Unfortunately there with the fastest lap, as you can see, Alonso snatched it by just 100. So we were close on getting that fastest lap as well. But Magnussen here now, going up a little bit on the driver's leaderboard. We do enjoy that. And in the constructors here now, we gained 16 points, gaining 7 points on Aston. We need to have a little bit more than that if we are to beat them by the end of the season. But the gain here on Merck is pretty good. Let's put it like that. And that is where our main fight is going to be. Now, the pit stop championship here, we have kind of given up on. So we'll just take whatever we can get. It is really unfortunate that we hit this 6.3 second car release pit stop mistake here for Hulkenberg. He probably would potentially beat Alonso if it wasn't for that. But it is a mistake. They happen. We'll just have to deal with that. Try and avoid them next time around. With that, we actually have a response to the driver tension. And apparently the affinity is just going to go down. We couldn't sort out their differences. And we'll just have to live with that result. Now we have a failed front wing, suspension, and side pod. And we're just going to go ahead and replace those. And we're going to immediately start manufacturing new ones because we do have manufacturing capabilities now. So that does give us the opportunity immediately to start manufacturing what we're lacking. And it is a double header here with Monza. So while I wasn't certain, I wasn't wrong. And after Monza, we have Singapore, Japan, and Qatar. So no biggie. We'll get the Italian GP done here. And then we'll see where we stand in terms of our pit crew. And hopefully our boys have leveled up a little bit more. But we'll deal with that once we get there. Now the suspension has been made, but I believe we broke a suspension. So we probably should start another suspension project. And we'll get that underway. Board attendance at GP, honestly, we're just going to deny these at this point. Because again, the board confidence going up would be nice. Board confidence decrease would be not as nice. Particularly because our current board confidence is basically maximum. So there's no reason to take a risk of, a double DNF and losing that confidence. We don't have to take any sort of risk. There's no merits in it for us. So we're just going to go ahead and deny that request. Underfloor research complete. I would assume this is where I put my CFD time, maybe? Yeah, it does look like that. 5% airflow sensitivity, 5% drag reduction. Yeah, this is definitely where we put the CFD time. So we used it on the suspension and underflow so far. Probably going to do front wing next and then rear wing. But this should have boosted this. Because again, we got 5% in both of these. And what else did we get? If we take a quick look at it again. That's almost 25. Well, 0.23. 0.21. Very little on the high speed, but that's fine, honestly. And let's have a look at the underfloor again. So we had 0.23 to this, which means that we've caught up. 0.21 to this, which means that we definitely caught up. And even with that little we got for the high speed, next year the underfloor is going to be better than the current underfloor. Same as we kind of see here with the suspension. So we'll just keep on doing research on it though. Might want to start to actually focus a little bit on the side pods and the chassis at this stage, rather than doing another underfloor project. Let's have a look here. Because as I said, we kind of caught up on the underfloor. It's kind of limited the gains we can get while doing side pods here. If we maximize, of course, the engine cooling, get a little bit more drag reduction going. I don't think we want to invest in the front airflow, but the middle one, this is still decent gains. Airflow, top speed, cornering ability, and it is also a shorter project. So I think we're going to go ahead and do this. Since we have caught up on the underfloor, do a couple of projects on the chassis and the side pods as well. And I think that is a good balance here. The chassis is the side pods and the chassis tend to fall behind because we focus so much on the underfloor. We did, after all, put CFD into the underfloor immediately, so it makes sense that we would like to focus on the other two parts a little bit as well. For now, though, let's just get ready for Monza. Front wing has been manufactured, which means that once the other two projects are done, we should be caught up on parts again. And we actually did tick over the month here before the GP. So we're going to have to go ahead and do some fixes. But as you can see here, low speed, we've fallen backwards. Medium speed, I think we're where we were before this. But definitely falling backwards on high speed. So the other teams are still developing. So that's going to make it very interesting to see how we perform during the next few races. And of course, Magnussen hits the accursed adaptability stat. I do think that I have their development though on balance. So, well, actually I have it on short runs here. Probably should move it to something that doesn't have adaptability. So we can't actually hit that one. But I guess short runs is the best bet for what he needs. And I think we have Hulkenberg on the same thing. So yeah, the fact that they're hitting adaptability, it's just bad luck at that point. But yeah, they still keep on developing. And honestly, we can be very, very happy with that at this stage in their careers. Let's gamble for fastest lap. And also both cars in Q2 and Q3. And with that, let's jump into the next GP here. I'm going to quickly set up the training schedule though, because we kind of have to. So going into this, we're actually way more tired than anticipated. Because remember, this Thursday was supposed to be 2% weariness. Instead, we've hit 38%. So there's definitely something wonky going on here with the calculations. And again, if you can't trust the calculation, it does put a bit of a problem. I'm starting to wonder if it's not the pit stops themselves that add extra weariness, but it's actually the pit stop errors that cause that. Because that would kind of make sense that if they make a pit stop error, they're more weary or tired from having, you know, Steiner yelling at them. But I can't really figure out the logic to it, and that annoys me greatly. Because again, we were supposed to have 2% here. No way we go from 2 to 38% in a couple of practice sessions. That just isn't happening. So there's something here that doesn't follow the estimated rules, so to speak, and that is a bit of an issue. For now, though, we're just going to still focus on the chance of mistake. We'll have to just take slower pit stops as a punishment for that, because generally we just don't have the pit crew weariness or fatigue to do anything else. If we do this, it's going to take 35%, meaning that we get an extra percent. But basically, over the course of several days, it's going to go up a lot quicker. Because as you can see here, from Thursday to Friday, the fatigue kind of stays the same, somewhat. So you can actually link up 25 of these before you get tired. But you can't actually do that with the other one because it gets an extra percentage points, meaning that from one day to the next, you're actually going to jump up 4% instead of just a 1% that you have here. So it's also harder to train. But yeah, I don't know what to do with the pit of current moment. It's kind of hard to manage, honestly. I've been trying to make sense out of it, but I probably am going to have to go and dig into the F1 Manager Discord and see what the consensus is and see if I get any ideas from there. For now, though, let's put that aside and jump into the Italian GP. So after a wet and somewhat annoying quali due to it, we ended up in 8th and 9th, but both Alpines are taking penalties, so we should be moving up a little bit up the grid. This last should be neat. Now, in terms of the tires here, the softs have an advantage for about 10 laps. The same can be said for, well, not really. Medium to hard is about 30 laps. So with that in mind, we have a bit of a simple choice to make here. I think the strategy here is going to be fairly simple. Medium to hard, and then finish off with a soft stint. Go as aggressive as we can. It is probably going to be the best bet around here, I would think. So that is what we're going to do. Pretty simple and straightforward. It's going to be a little bit slower than a one-stop, but again, a one-stop would basically pull you into, you know, danger territory anyways. So we're going to do this. It's pretty, again, simple, straightforward. It gets the job done. And that's why we'll be doing the same strategy for both of them. And we'll just use Magnussen as a, well, as a guidepost on when to pit. So that should be pretty simple and straightforward. If we need to, we'll just adjust Hulkenberg's strategy as we go. We're starting 7th and 8th here, but I still think that we do have some decent chance of scoring some good points.
Here we are at the oldest circuit in Europe.
So a lot of soft runners again. I think everyone except for us have started on the soft tire. And as you can see, all of them have with fresh soft tires, and we actually have Sargent and Albon in 9th and 10th. With that in mind, though, it's going to create a little bit of an interest for us going into the first pit stops. As we'll be going to hards, and I would assume the rest are going to go to mediums.
Okay.
They might actually be trying the one-stop strategy here, so I'm looking forward to seeing if that is the case. If it is, I can guarantee you that we're going to have a ton of punctures. And if it isn't, it's going to be still a fairly interesting session here. For now, though, as we have been used to, for the first couple of laps, we just post up, try and stay in our current positions. Looks like that's not going to be a big problem right now. We're quicker than the Williams, yet slower than the Red Bulls and the Ferraris. So nothing we really can do here. We are just going to wait until they slow down a little bit, although Hulkenberg is already up into the back of them. We'll try and save a little bit of energy for getting overtaking done, but this should be good enough that now that DRS unlocks, we should be able to stick with them with both cars and create a bit of a gap down to the Williams of Sargent here. So a pretty good starting point for us. Now we are going to, of course, try and get as high as we can in terms of position, but as you can see here, tire-wise, we're using about the same amount of tire as everyone around us, so I'm going to be very curious to see how this is going to play out. We're actually going to go ahead and deploy with Hulkenberg and see if we can close down that gap again. We might need to deploy a little bit here with Magnussen too to make sure he keeps up. But we definitely want to stay in that DRS train with those quick soft runners if we can. That would be very, very beneficial for us. So yeah, we'll try and do our best to make that happen. It's probably going to be, as I said, a bit difficult, but we'll try our best and see how it looks once we get to that first pit stop window. So I think we can safely say at this point, 8 laps in, that they're not doing a one-stopper. No way any of these guys are trying to do a one-stopper. All of them are pushing their tires still, for the most part. Verstappen is being a little bit cooler, but let's face it, he has higher smoothness. Gasly, Norris, so yeah. A lot of these cars are still very aggressive. We're somewhat keeping up, but we are just outside of DRS. So yeah, it's not looking too great at this point, honestly. We'll do our best, though, to hang on and keep things going. And we've had our first incident. Multiple cars crashed. I believe it is behind us instead of in front of us, and it is Russell and the Williams. And that is a bit of a harder touch than I would have imagined. But I would assume both drivers are still fine. Russell is still kind of parked. But both the drivers, they did fall back pretty far back. So while it doesn't really have any effect on us, it was an incident. And we have another yellow flag here, which should hint to, well, in this case, Sargent just having a little bit of a spin. So that is very unfortunate for him. He was in a good spot, spun around, and now he's down into 20th. So Russell eats a penalty. Sargent down in 20th. That does create a big gap for us, though, when we actually do end up pitting, so it's not all bad. But hopefully here we can have Magnussen and Hulkenberg kind of switch back and forth and close down the gap to Stroll and Sainz ahead, and maybe allow us to get some overtakes done before the first pit stops, because we're getting really close to that. And as you can still see, everyone is going full attack. So looking forward to what strategy the AI is going to be employing here. So we are now getting into the pit stops. Leclerc pitted this lap. We're going to be pitting Hulkenberg first. So we'll be pitting him on this lap right now. And we'll be pitting I was about to call him Magnussen. I don't know what's up with me these last few days. I even had today off to rest, so probably a little bit too much energy due to it. Been very busy lately, so that does probably have a bit of an effect on it. But Alonso pits, we pit, and we do not come out in the best of windows here. Let's put it like that. We're going to be stuck behind Bottas and Tsunoda. We probably aren't going to be fairly quick here, so getting those overtakes done quickly is going to be key. But it's also not completely bad, because while we are going to be somewhat stuck behind them, it should allow us to get some easy overtakes done, and in turn, some easy confidence gain, which would be nice. So it's not all bad, but of course it is going to slow us down, which is going to potentially hurt us in the long run here. Hulkenberg does get by though here, which is very, very nice. And we can see Stroll, Sainz, Ocon pitting. Can we beat any of them out? It's going to be the big one here. We did beat Stroll out, let's be honest. Just barely. So, can we beat De Vries? Yeah, that shouldn't be an issue. Verstappen, Paris, not really happening. So, I guess they're doing a soft to hard one-stopper. That is what I'm thinking is going to happen here. So, we'll have to see now if we are going to be able to, you know, catch up, gain some distance, or if this is going to be kind of the end now. But with Alonso being involved in an incident, that does open up some opportunities for us. I would assume that is side pod damage for the Ferrari, at the very least. And maybe some tire damage for Alonso. Not really, but he is lower than the rest here, so he did suffer something. But yeah, that is not a huge loss, honestly, but it is a loss. We might be able to take advantage of it. We'll have to see. No penalties. Okay, that's interesting. And Paris there with a somewhat slow stop, which allows Hulkenberg to jump him. And Magnussen too, maybe. Yeah, we get a double jump there for Paris. That's going to slow him down. And Verstappen now should be pitting too very, very soon. And since we jump Paris, we might actually be able to jump Verstappen as well here. He too having a bit of a pit stop issue here. The Red Bull's famed pit stops failing today. Okay, this is now fairly interesting because, again, we're just going to be pushing these Haas as far as we can go before we go on to an aggressive final soft stint. If we can kind of stay with these guys and slow them down, that would be pretty good on its own. And we're probably going to be able to do that because Hulkenberg should be able to hold Stroll at bay. And if we get Perez too into that, Magnussen into it, then we might be able to play a little bit of a blocking game here, but we'll have to see. Did we have another incident between Alonso and... No, it's the McLarens this time around. Just a bit of turning into him, I guess. But yeah, we're currently looking really, really good. So let's see if we can keep this up until the end of the race. Getting close now to that final pit stop. We're just a couple of laps away. And as you can see, currently we are getting towed by Verstappen. Perez did manage to get away. Nothing much we could do about that. But in terms of the gaps there to the front, we're just 5 seconds behind. Now, when we pit, we are going to come out behind Gasly. But I think that is a risk that we should be willing to take here, because we are going to be a lot quicker, over a second a lap. And that is without taking into account that we'll be running attack versus cars that are going to be running lower and, hard tires. So we should be a lot quicker than they are, just from that perspective. I would assume that we'll probably be a second and a half, maybe even more ahead of them. So while pitting here probably isn't the best strategy ever, we are going to have to before the end of the race anyways, so we might as well get it done. And we are going to have Magnussen run one more lap here, just due to the fact that they're too close to each other. So we really should have gotten the pit stops done a lap earlier. Hopefully Hamilton and Gasly aren't going to be a nuisance, but knowing our luck, they probably are going to be. And currently, we're going to have a good 29-second gap here up to the front. So with 10 laps to go, we are going to need to probably eat out 2 seconds a lap here to make this work, really. So I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of lap times we're going to be getting, and if this is going to be worth it. We might also have to conserve a little bit of fuel here towards the end as well. But currently, let's have a look here and see what lap times Hulkenberg is going to be setting. Hopefully, we should be getting closer to fastest lap. And 22.5 is not really good enough, let's put it like that. We need to be even quicker. But unfortunately, that's probably going to be all that we can go for, which means that we'll be fighting for 9th and 8th here. Strategy kind of backfiring soft to hard. Definitely working out better than I anticipated. Unless, of course, now that we got the times up to temperature, we're going to be setting even faster laps, say 22.4. So, it's not bad. We are gaining a couple of seconds on the cars ahead. And with that in mind, this might not be as hopeless as it seems if we can keep this up till the end. And that is going to be a big if, though. So, we're going to push. Let's see how high we can get before we are at the end of the race. We've had a bit of an incident here.
We've got an incident here, and as I understand it, George Russell's involved.
Russell's involved towards the back, so nothing that will have an effect on us. Oh.
Barely any room to maneuver.
That looked like they could have taken out the McLaren too, though. But as you can see, Hulkenberg has made it up into 8th. We have 5 laps to go. I think we can get Ocon, maybe. But I think that is the limit, unfortunately, of what we're going to be able to do here. Magnussen gets Hamilton, Gasly next, and then he too will start chasing down the cars in front. But we are going to run a little bit of conserve here, just to be on the safe side again. And I think even if we don't use energy now, Magnussen should be getting Gasly on the straight, I would hope. Maybe not. Maybe we do need to push. Maybe the energy is a little bit more important here than I anticipated. But we do get by. And that should be it for that. For the overtakes here. Although we are using up these tires pretty rapidly, they should still have an advantage against the cars around us. But even then, 8th and 9th. It's not great, but it's not horrible either. It is an acceptable result, I feel, for this race. We could maybe have done better if we'd gone for the one-stopper. But that's the fun of these games, when you actually can make mistakes and maybe learn from them. Although I am stubbornly sticking to my 2-stop plans as I find them more fun. But with the AI on hard, it definitely doesn't allow for things like that. But as you can see, they definitely used up all of their tires. So maybe if we stretched them a little bit longer, it might have been better. But we're still running 22s. They're running 24s. They haven't really lost as much time as I hoped they would. So that too had an effect on this race for sure. Now, catching Ocon is probably just a pipe dream, unfortunately. But I still feel like it was a decent race for us here. Even though we don't score a lot of points, we're going to be falling back compared to the Astons. I still think that it's a decent result for us here. Honestly, any result where we don't crash out is a decent result for us. Let's be perfectly honest here. 7 points gained. Basically a point more than Alpine. 11 points less than the Astons. That's going to sting. But at least a lot more points than the Mercedes. And we actually have a Ferrari P1 here for the Italian GP. So they can be out with that. Of course, it ends up being Sainz instead of Leclerc because Leclerc's life is just pain. He is the unluckiest, well, probably not the unluckiest, but he's one of the most unlucky drivers in Formula 1, for sure. In terms of the championship then, we are still firmly in 4th. It's going to be hard to catch Aston Martin at this point, honestly. We probably have to develop the car to pull that off, but honestly, I'd rather try and have some more fun with the AI next season, see if that is doable with a full research build. And if it isn't, then we'll just have to deal with that when we get there. So ATI is beginning. We want to use this on the front wing, we seem to remember. And we actually had a failure on the rear wing for both cars, so let's go ahead and replace that. And just manufacture 2 new ones right away. There's nothing that stops us from doing that. It does feel good to have 4 slots again. Although the summer break did also help with getting into the positive side here of things, if you will. So it'll still take a month until we can use the CFD period. Apparently Fittipaldi here, his contract is running out. We'll have to find ourselves probably a new reserve. And for staff here, there's actually a lot of them that we're going to have to negotiate new contracts with. But I think we'll leave that for close towards the end of the season. See what the rest of the grid feels like. Probably we do want to switch out our sporting director if we can. But that is it. That is, again, we'll just leave the contracts for later on in the season. However, we are going to end this episode here. It's a little bit shorter episodes lately, but that is more so that I can make sure that I get them out daily rather than making 1.5 hour. We'll try and set them around the hour mark, even if it's just 2 or 3 races. Around the grid currently is kind of in a weird spot because it's very competitive. This too is kind of interesting because it is still somewhat competitive, although we're fighting for bottom points in the grid. If the situation allows for it, we can probably fight for podiums once more this season. So I might end up condensing some of the next races here, because we are kind of settling into a point here where we are going to be more likely set for 4th, then we're going to be able to fight for 3rd. Mercs seem to have kind of fallen apart at this stage. Alpine scoring a bunch of points. So going forwards, we might just go ahead and condense the last half of this season into 1 or maybe 2 parts, depending, of course, on how we do during the races themselves. But I'm probably going to end up doing that because, as I said, the season does seem to be somewhat decided already since we are developing the car. And the decision there is going to be that unless Merc can do something, we're going to be able to secure 4th. So we'll see what we do next time. For now, this is going to be the end of today's part for the Haas Hard Challenge. Sorry about that. Don't know why I growl like a dragon. I don't even know if that came on the microphone, but if it did, apologies. I am slightly hungry. That's probably why. But yeah, I do kind of feel like the AI is really good on how they've done the race strategies. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how it does in terms of seasonal development. What I've read is that they're kind of cheating, getting a little bit extra boost. But honestly, the AI kind of needs that. It's either that or force them to do more research projects, really. But for now, we'll end it here. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you around next time. Bye-bye.